let's get back to Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals last night. By now, you know this script. Clippers once again in a hole in a series, down 3-1 to the Suns. This time, though, Paul George pulled them out. After a tough Game 4, he stepped up in Game 5, 41 points, 30 points in the second half alone. Clippers get the win. They force a Game 6 Wednesday night. After the game, Playoff P was asked about the criticism he's been getting this postseason, if he thinks he's singled out more than any other star. Take a listen.
I do, and it's the honest truth. It's a fact, but I can't worry about that. It's comes with the job, I guess. But you know, it is what it is. You know, I still try to go and dominate, whether I'm shooting the ball well or not shooting the ball well. I still try to dominate just the whole game in general. To me, it doesn't come down to just scoring. It's just being able to play both ends, rebound, and make plays for others. And so I'm beyond that. You know what I mean? I'm beyond that. I am who I am. I wish I could shoot 80%, 75% on a nightly basis. But it's not realistic. But what I can do is do everything else. And so it is what it is. They can judge me on what they want to. That part don't matter to me. I'm gonna go out there and hoop and give everything I got.
All right, Chris Broussard, I'll start with you. What'd you make of Paul George's game and also his comments afterwards?
Well, his game, Jenna, was outstanding. As I told Nick Wright yesterday, he's better than Chris Middleton. All right, and he went out and proved it last night. And here's what I liked about what Paul George did. Because while everyone, including myself, was criticizing him for the missed free throws in Game 4 and even Game 2, and everybody was saying he's got to step up, he's got to play big, he let the game come to him. Heck, Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson were on the broadcast in the first half saying he's got to do more, he's got to do more, he's not being aggressive enough. They don't like the way he's going out, and he let the game come to him. And what that did was allowed his teammates to shine when they had the hot hand. So Marcus Morris gets 20 in the first half. DeMarcus Cousins gets 10 in the first half. Reggie Jackson has his little run in the fourth quarter and ends up with 23 points. But when it was time to take over in the second half, Paul George was there, as you mentioned, Jenna, 20 points in the third quarter, 10 in the fourth. So his performance was great. As far as the comments, he said it's a fact. Actually, it's fiction. All right, just off the top of my head, players that are more scrutinized or criticized than Paul George, how about LeBron James? LeBron James is not only criticized more than Paul George, he's the most scrutinized player in the history of the NBA. All right, how about Russell Westbrook? How about Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons now? And some people might even throw in the James Harden. There are other players criticized more than Playoff P. And that leads me to this. Right. When you gave yourself the nickname Playoff P, you were asking to be criticized. Like Charles Barkley said, if he went around calling himself Championship Chuck, then he would get criticized because he's got no rings. So when Paul George doesn't deliver in the playoffs, people are going to focus on it because of the nickname. And finally, he has to understand it's a sign of respect because it shows you're a great player. Good players don't get criticized consistently. Look, I know Nick thinks that Chris Middleton is the next Kobe Bryant, but nobody else does. So Chris Middleton doesn't get criticized like this, all right? Chris Middleton, if he goes out tonight and scores 14 points on 5 of 26 shooting, nobody's going to really care because he's Chris Middleton.
We talked about it.
Paul George being criticized consistently is a sign of respect.
It's the line of demarcation between star and superstar. It is, can you have a bad game and escape criticism? If you can, you're not a superstar. Right. And so I agree with you on the Chris Middleton point. But I actually, and let me say this before we talk about the comments. That was the best game of Paul George's playoff life last night. They had to have it. He was 75%, 30 second half points, a career high in points. And by the way, previously he had the best game of his playoff life a couple weeks ago, Game 5 against Utah. So even though this series he had been wildly inefficient, he was still producing in other ways for his team. And last night was literally the best playoff game he's ever played. But I do think Paul George is criticized differently than other guys because, and I, of course, listen, LeBron is almost in his own category for irrational criticism. But here's the thing, Brandon, and I think Wildes agrees with me, but I heard him almost sighing with something Broussard said, so I'm going to pluck his brain. Here's the thing. Paul George, it's not that he's criticized. He's made fun of. And that's the difference. And he knows it. Paul George is mocked differently than other stars are. Now, some of this he has done to himself. He has had some embarrassing off-the-court stuff, nothing illegal or criminal, just embarrassing in like the Twitter era. His comments after Game 7 last year, where it's like, I don't think it was a must-win season for us. Like, they lend themselves to the criticism.
I disagree.
Some of it, Brandon's bad luck.
Good, Nick.
Let me just explain this real quick. Some of this is bad luck, which is he had a Gatorade commercial debut of him hitting a game-winning shot at the exact time a playoff series happened where he airballed a game-winning shot. So, like, that commercial was running during the game. This is back when he was in Indiana. When the game-winning, the commercial set up, and then it happened in the game, and he airballed it. So some of it's bad luck, but I do think he's made fun of in a different way than, like, Russ is criticized. Nobody makes fun of Russ. And I think Paul George has been made fun of, which is what I think he's responding to.
I 100% disagree. I don't think it's about Paul George. I think it's about this era. This is the social media era, so everyone is turned into a meme. Hell, Michael Jordan is turned into a meme, the crying emoji or whatever the hell you call it. And then there's other people out there. So this is about a generation and not about a player or a position. Anybody that goes out there and they put themselves in a bad spot, like you said, you got a commercial debuting and you're hitting the game winner, and then you end up doing the opposite. You're on the other end of the spectrum. You're probably going to get made fun of. And then when you're in this position and you guys make the noise that you made when you left OKC and Kawhi left Toronto and you guys came here and you underperformed, you're opening yourself up to that, and this is just the era. But here's the thing, Playoff P was sensational last night. And as I was watching this game, I'm thinking about, you know, some of the guys who took advantage of the moment. As a player, I was always looking for my run. I knew my stats were going to stack up with some of the greats, you know, of all time. But I was looking for that one run, that 1 year, that one signature play, that one signature game. I never got it. But when you go back to 2008, Larry Fitzgerald, they went to the playoffs, and then they end up going on a run and made it to the Super Bowl. But Larry Fitzgerald, week after week after week, was sensational. And then now we were talking about, can he potentially be the greatest receiver of all time? He's a Hall of Famer right now. You go to 2014, a guy on this team, he doesn't have to look far. Look at the end of the bench and you see, or maybe look in the box, Kawhi Leonard, because you know he's not on the bench right now. Look at Kawhi Leonard, 2014. If you go back to that series when he was with the Spurs, he was locked down, and everybody was like, who is this claw guy? Who is this Kawhi Leonard? And from that moment, he just started ascending. So when you look at Paul George, he needs to escape. He needs to slay the Suns. He needs to get to the finals. If he does that, we're going to look back at this moment and say that was his moment, that was his run.
It's a great point.
Okay, I agree with you, Brandon. He did score 41 last night, and still people have their knives out for him. But here's what I disagree with Broussard about. All the guys that you mentioned, Broussard, LeBron and KD and Harden and Russ, they have people that ride for them. No one really rides for Paul George until now, my friend. Old KW is here. He's #1 in the Paul George fan club. Somebody's got to do it. It was open real estate, and I'm taking it. So first, let me address Boogie Cousins, because Boogie's like, I don't know where all this slander is coming from. Rule 1 of the Paul George fan club is we are truth tellers. So first of all, let's put up the truth about Paul George and where some of this slander comes from. Look, most game shooting, 25% or worse. hey, it's not great. On the plus side, some other awesome names up there like Russ, Harden, Iverson, and Pippen. And now here is what we put this on a flag, and it's flying outside of our Paul George fan club headquarters.